Donald Trump might be famous for the art of the deal, but the president's latest Ukraine peace proposal looks a lot like giving Russia everything it wants and then some.
It's a vicious war, and if I can help solve it, that would be great.
President Trump says this is the last chance for peace.
I think we have a deal with Russia. I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelenskyy. So far, it's been harder.
As he again attacked Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the US administration outlined its latest peace deal. Almost all Ukrainian land claimed by Russia during the war is to be retained by Russia. The US will legally recognize Crimea as a Russian territory, and Ukraine will not join NATO.
The only way to really stop the killing is for the armies to both put down their weapons, to freeze this thing.
This invasion of Ukraine by Vladimir Putin and Russia is rewarded by giving them territorial concessions that incentivize this kind of action.
For Russia, it promises the deal of the century. But wait, there's more. The US would also lift sanctions on Russia and pass the responsibility of Ukraine's security over to Europe. Ukraine is refusing to negotiate further until Russia agrees to a ceasefire.
Emotions have run high today. The American side shared its vision. Ukraine and other Europeans presented their inputs.
I just want to see the war end. I don't care. If they're both happy, they both sign an agreement. I have no favorites.
Yes, Donald Trump has favorites with Vladimir Putin in Russia. Zelensky's fighting for his life and for Ukraine's life, and that doesn't fit Donald Trump. And he sees and admires many characteristics of Vladimir Putin that he wants to laud and support.
Zelenskyy is adamant Crimea is not on the negotiating table.
This is our territory, the territory of the people of Ukraine.
Donald Trump erupting on Truth Social in response.
Crimea was lost years ago and is not even a point of discussion.
The fractious back and forth, just another in a series of hostility between the two presidents.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
He is not falling into line to just do what Donald Trump wants. He wants out of this conflict, and Zelenskyy is saying, my national boundaries matter, my national identity matters, and Donald Trump doesn't buy that.
While Trump is threatening to walk away, Ukraine's European allies are rallying around it. But with plans to end the war seemingly at a stalemate, the bloodshed continues.
Joining us now is the Ambassador of Ukraine to Australia, Vasyl Myroshnychenko. Ambassador, thank you very much for your time. What do you make of this proposal by the US?
Well, as you know, yesterday in London, we had very good negotiations and talks with 5 countries were there. Ukraine was there, US, Britain, UK, and Germany. And all 5 countries had a very candid discussion about how should we be moving forward. And certainly we heard the proposal from the US government. Britain, France, and Germany had their own views. We have their own views on this issue as well. But we have to keep in mind that what does it mean, right, when you say that we should recognize Crimea as part of Russia? And what does it mean for the global security? What does it mean for Taiwan? Crimea is an integral part of Ukraine, and it's in our constitution, it's enshrined in our constitution. There was a Crimea Declaration in 2018 when US government, as well as many other governments, have again restated that commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty where Crimea is part of Ukraine. What about our indigenous people in Crimea? You know, we have 300,000 indigenous Crimeans there. They are Muslim people who always lived there. They were deported during the Soviet times in 1944. Most of them have died on the way to Central Asia. They can only come back when Ukraine became independent. These 300,000 indigenous people in Crimea are now under the Russian occupation, suffering, being prosecuted. Their human rights have been violated grossly. What do you say to those people, and how can you talk to them about this?
Do you think President Trump would say that Crimea was lost in 2014? Ukraine lost control of that. What would you say to that? And do you think that there's a world where you can expect it realistically to be returned to Ukraine?
Ukraine has given up nuclear weapons in 1994 upon the assistance of the US government. And we gave it up, and it was the 3rd largest stockpile of the nuclear weapons. And we gave it up because President Clinton insisted on that. And we gave it up in exchange for our sovereignty to be always respected. And 5 countries signed that document: US, China, Russia, France, and the UK. So all we want the respect on the document which we have once signed, made the biggest contribution to the global peace, and nobody has ever done it, only Ukraine done it.
So these are arguments of principle that you're making. The reality on the ground is that there's a war raging. It has no signs of slowing, and Ukraine is not winning that war, let's put it that way. And so that suggests some kind of pragmatic compromise must be necessary, doesn't it?
Ukraine is standing up to democracy. We've been fighting for the past 3 years. And I think it's up to other democracies to stand up for it as well.
Right, but the United States has made its position clear, and it doesn't seem to be that it wants to have a fight in Ukraine over democracy and stand with Ukraine in this way. So given that, don't you have to... Do you have to compromise on like, I understand how much it would hurt. I get that point.
No,
but is it inevitable?
Yeah, this morning I recorded a video message in front of the Australian War Memorial in Canberra on the way here. And something which I said there, I talked about a fair go, a concept which is so dear to every Australian. A fair go goes beyond. This is what defines and shapes Australian mentality. And for us, we paid so much for democracy now. We sacrificed many lives. Many cities been destroyed in Ukraine. This is what we paid for. Don't you think it's about justice? Don't you think that Russia must be held accountable for that? We already paid a high price.
I think a lot of people would think that. Apparently the United States may not. And so that's the situation that you're faced with. And the reality of war is that it doesn't end always fairly.
And we value the contribution from America as well as from all other partners, including Australia and New Zealand here in this part of the world. And certainly it will be very difficult for us to fight. But I have to tell you one thing. Even every country is going to walk away from Ukraine, will keep on fighting. You know why? Because there's no alternative. That's our superpower.
Right.
Because we know what is the alternative. Russia wants Ukraine totally destroyed, extinguished as a country, extinguished as a cultural identity. Russians want to destroy Ukrainian language, culture. They want to take it over and then erase everything that has happened before. We're dealing with a colonial power. That's our alternative. And that's our superpower. We'll keep on fighting no matter what.
Doesn't sound like there's a deal to be done, at least in the short term.
Wow.
No doubt we'll speak to you again. I'm afraid we'll have to speak to you again at some point, Ambassador. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.